morning. Welcome to the May 21st, 2024 meeting of the Greensboro City Council. We are in the Katie Dorset Council Chamber. Let the record reflect that all members are in attendance. We will begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence. Earlier today, we did have a police memorial out on the front of the building to remember all of the police officers in Guilford County who have perished in the line of duty. If we could still keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Mr. Holston, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please silence all electronic devices. If you must make or receive a phone call, kindly do so from outside the council chamber. The Greensboro City Council welcomes input. It is important for all attendees to feel that the Katie Dorset Council Chamber is a welcoming and safe space where residents feel empowered to bring issues of concern before their elected officials. People registering to speak are required to acknowledge the rules of decorum for meeting participation. These rules do not limit the content of the speaker's message, but are to ensure that speakers understand that we expect this meeting to be conducted in a safe, civil, and orderly manner. The City of Greensboro is committed to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying. Therefore, speakers shall refrain from personal attacks. The mayor or the presiding officer has the authority to enforce the rules of decorum. Speakers or audience members who intentionally disrupt the meeting or ridicule other speakers will be given a warning, and if unheeded, will be removed from the meeting. That person or persons will be suspended from in-person participation for the next 3 months. In order to preserve their right to free speech, they may attend virtually by Zoom, by phone, or may submit comments by email. Speakers must be signed up to speak by 6 p.m. Any speaker handouts must be provided to the city clerk or courier for distribution to council. All speakers must check in with the courier to confirm their presence at the beginning of the meeting. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes and can speak once on an agenda item. Depending on the number of speakers, City Council may decrease this time. Zoning matters do allow for a 15-minute presentation, both for and against the rezoning. There is also a 5-minute rebuttal. By statute, council members must vote on all items unless there is a direct financial interest or if they sit on a board of a nonprofit receiving funding from the city on that item. All votes will be moved and seconded. The mayor or the presiding officer will announce the vote total. We do have a consent agenda, which are items G1 through G21, which are a grouping of agenda items that are voted on with one single vote to expedite what are believed to be routine and non-controversial items. Any council member may withdraw an item from the consent agenda due to a conflict of interest or for the purpose of voting no. Items removed from the consent agenda for discussion will be placed on the June 18th City Council business agenda. This meeting does include closed captioning. Depending on the length of tonight's meeting, we may take a short recess around 7:30. Staff has requested council to remove item G4, which is a resolution authorizing the conveyance of a sanitary sewer easement located at 150 and 138 Flemingfield Road to HPT Investment Holdings, LLC from the consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mrs. Abuzawader. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? And that passes unanimously. This is the time for our ceremonial and presentation items. Item E1 is a resolution to declare May 2024 as an amyotrophic lateral sclerosis ALS month. Mr. Holston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution to declare May 24 as the Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis ALS Month. Whereas amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, known by many as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive, fatal neurodegenerative disease that attacks nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. Whereas when the brain loses connection with the muscles, it slowly takes an individual's ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. Whereas ALS not only impacts the individuals diagnosed with the disease, but also their families, caregivers, and communities. Whereas approximately 30,000 individuals in the United States are afflicted with ALS, an estimated 5,000 new cases each year, and with a person losing their battle from the disease every 90 minutes. Whereas ALS shows no favoritism and will strike people regardless of race, sex, age, and ethnicity. Whereas a continued fight to find the causes of and cure for ALS will prevent the disease from robbing hundreds of Americans of their dignity and lives. Whereas aggressive treatments of ALS symptoms could extend the lives of those living with the disease. Whereas raising public awareness of this disease will facilitate the discovery of a cure, bring much needed dollars for support, and services for families dealing with ALS. Whereas organizations, healthcare professionals, advocates, and individuals across the nation come together during ALS Awareness Month to promote awareness support and research initiatives aimed at finding a cure for ALS and improving quality of life for those affected by the disease. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the Greensboro City Council has a vote in front of the screen, that the Greensboro City Council declares the month of May as Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis ALS Month, encourages the City of Greensboro's residents to participate in activities and events aimed at raising awareness of ALS and to support people impacted by the disease and their loved ones, adopted this 21st day of May, 2024. And Madam Mayor, if I could say that ALS awareness is very important to me, as in
It's all right here.
As in 2015, I lost my mother to ALS. I would say that there's an annual walk in all the communities, the ALS walk, and in Greensboro it's October 26th, and it's going to be based at the Grasshopper Stadium, and I do encourage all to attend and to walk and to support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That has been moved by Mr. Holston, seconded by Mr. Matheny. Council, please vote.
Submit.
And that passes 9-0. Thank you. Item E2 is a resolution directing the filing with the city clerk of the budget estimate for the next fiscal year. We do have a presentation from the interim city manager, Chris Wilson. And the books were on our desks, so we will have them for Thursday's work session at 2 o'clock. The next few weeks in a row, we have 2 o'clock work sessions on the budget. This evening is just to receive the city manager's budget.
And good evening, City Council. In accordance with the general statutes of North Carolina, on behalf of our team, it's my honor and privilege to submit to you our recommended operating capital budget for fiscal year 24-25. Next slide, please. Over the course of the next slides and many days in which we will work together, I hope to convince you that the theme of this year's budget is laying the foundation for a positive path forward. We've had much success over the past few years. We've all celebrated in businesses, economic development, additional community support, and during this budget process, we will continue to celebrate those things, but we need to invest in supporting all of those successes through infrastructure and the commitments we've made. In accordance with the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act, the fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget meets my responsibility to provide a balanced fiscal plan for council review. The proposed budget totals $801.8 million. This is an increase of about 6.7% or $50.4 million. I believe this is the slide that many folks are interested in, so I will let it sit there for a minute. This year's proposed budget does not suggest an increase in the property tax rate. We would maintain 67.25 cents. The budget year has presented some challenges. It also presents some profound opportunities. It's often difficult aligning needs and priorities with the financial backing required to deliver the highest quality services our community deserves and expects. We did so with a focus on employee compensation, significant investments in key community projects, economic development, and the necessary resources and program changes we need to advance our priorities. Let's talk a little bit about the highlights and the priorities that we use to develop the budget this year. I think you'll find they mirror your priorities that were decided upon in your February strategy session quite well. Continued commitment to employee compensation and a strong place in the market. Optimizing efficiency and effectiveness in order to not increase the tax rate. Improving public safety, or continuing to. Continuing to help attainable housing for our residents, continuing to support the great economic development that we've seen and we know more is coming, continuing to connect and create accessibility through transit and pedestrians access. And of course, with being faced with almost $1 billion of infrastructure needs, we must invest in our infrastructure and maintenance. Let's begin with employee compensation. We recently revealed to you in a work session that we wish to increase the minimum hourly wage from $18 to $18.75, or $39,000 a year. Many of our positions, many field positions, including crew members and heavy equipment operators, will go to more than $20 an hour. We are suggesting a 4% salary increase for all employees. The difference this year would be that we will include roster employees. And let me explain for the purpose of the public, roster employees are positions that do not exceed, in general, 1,000 hours a year. They're compensated in cash, but they receive no benefits, yet they serve a vital role to our operation. We have hundreds of roster employees. It has been 3 years since they've received an increase. So this budget would allow for a 4% increase in roster wages. There's a couple of things that I want to highlight that I've suggested in some of our work sessions. This year, what I have done is asked our leadership to look within their departments at how we do business. We often hold up some examples of things that we've done to create efficiencies and effectiveness, such as the civilian traffic investigators. That was a great move this year to take vacancies and convert them for use to build capacity. Likewise, this year we looked at building capacity through reorganizing or strategic realignment of field crews. By combining crews and addressing things from one geographic location to the next, we were able to eliminate duplication and create additional capacity for addressing maintenance needs. Additionally, this year, what you will see in the budget is we have asked that vacancies be looked at for efficiencies as well. Some of these will include administrative functions. In some cases, administrative positions can come with a higher salary, but are not necessarily linked to direct service. Several of the changes that we've made this year will include changes to positions that allow a savings, but also repurpose positions in order to get what I call boots on the ground. Going into the budget year, you will see an increase of our FTEs, as we call it, which is basically the full-time equivalency for the city's count. In this case, you'll see an increase of 13.875. That does not mean that there is a .875 person somewhere. That simply means that in combination with multiple positions, some of which are part-time, some of which are full-time, there is an equivalency. This year alone, we supported 15 additional positions during the course of the year to expand capacity. Some of those were around our behavioral response team, our fair housing, and MWBE. We will continue this trend by adding service enhancements to new requirements such as public safety radio system inspections, which we will talk about in future work sessions. Part of the ability to manage this and not increase costs significantly was the elimination of 6 or over 6 vacant positions. You all have done a tremendous job in creating a competitive wage to keep us as a leader in the market. When it comes to public safety pay, current analysis, which you saw recently in work session, shows that we are leading the way. We believe that the suggested 4% increase will allow us to maintain a strong place in the market. Changes to compensation alone do not complete the task at hand. We must also provide the tools necessary in order to do the job. This year will allow us to increase and improve fire equipment replacement and the continuation of the police take-home car program. Public safety does not reside simply in police or fire or GM 911. It's also in areas such as our transportation department. You will see the continuation of a much sought-after traffic safety program for neighborhoods. Housing remains a priority for council. You had a successful 2022 bond referendum that yielded $30 million in available bonds that you will see spent down over several years. This year, you will see $4.7 million in NUSBOM funding to support housing programs that are outlined in Housing GSO Plan. With one new addition, we will add $440,000 for rental mitigation or delineation. Additionally, we will continue to utilize ARP funds in the amount of $7.6 million that have been dedicated to housing. I know this very well, and I know it by heart, so I'm not even going to look at the slide. I'm going to tell you that you achieved last year $10.8 billion worth of investment. That is phenomenal. Some of that is the Toyota announcement. $120 million of that came from your airport at PTI. Maybe what you did not know is that you've seen a significant increase in permitting since 2022. And as you'll see, the numbers are resounding. I've been here a long time, as everyone knows. This is a stark contrast to what I saw even 4 or 5 years ago. That equated to $1.9 billion worth of development. That's incredible. But we must maintain our commitment to support these things. We have agreed to incentivize certain projects. We continue to work with development projects. And we must maintain funding that allows us to support our commitment. This budget will allow us to do so. I could not be more excited about Director Mason's arrival and the changes that he's made to our transit system. This year marked the Crosstown Max, which has been widely successful, our very first crosstown connector ever, which yields a 15-minute service. and we will continue a focus on high-volume routes and less time in between. We will also continue the hopper trolley with 2 new stops outside of the downtown area. It's important to note, too, that we have to maintain things in order to get around, and those are roads and sidewalks and greenways. This year, we anticipate the resurfacing of 77 streets. That equates to 58 lane miles across the city. We will see over $15 million of streetscape improvements. You'll see 20 miles across 30 locations in which we will improve sidewalk and greenway. Normally, Mike Borchers would be here to tell you how great the next proposal is, and I thought about having him do the full budget, but you've got me instead. So what I will tell you is we have asked for a modest, and some folks may disagree with that statement, increase of 8.5% average for water and sewer this year. Now, why are we asking for that? We have a significant need for investment in capital. This year, well, I'll tell you, the current year, you've done 12 miles of water and sewer replacement. We are aggressively going to pursue 22 miles of water and sewer replacement next year. This also represents about $890 million in capital improvement. We're additionally asking for an increase in stormwater rates. This has not been increased in 20 years. That will allow us to move forward with about $8 million worth of stormwater improvements, of which I believe many folks will be appreciative, particularly when it is flooding. But we're not going to stop there. We have investments in other facilities as well. I've outlined for you some strategies in which we would do so. We'll continue to use ARP-enabled funds, debt capacity financing, bond funding, and fortunately, federal and state funding to improve the Galleon Depot, which we're very excited about, our police headquarters, advancing the Windsor-Chavis-NOCO facility, a game changer for our community and this region, and 4 fire station renovations that are sorely needed in order to maintain response times. So let's look at the budget perspective from a graph and the numbers. I told you I saw some positive sides or signs in terms of revenue growth. Let's talk about expenses first to give context. During our last work session, we talked about personnel costs being the lion's share of what you see in a budget, and this mirrors that at 42%. You'll see an increase of 4.8%. And then the other lion's share, of course, is maintenance and operations, of which we desperately need to continue to invest in. At the same time, we are shouldering the same considerations our residents are in terms of inflation and increased cost. Property tax is showing positive signs of growth. The work is paying off. You have continued to grow. You annexed. You have seen investment in facilities and housing. But that takes time, as we've talked about many times. So while this is positive, it has to be balanced with some of the other revenues that we receive. And in this particular case, sales tax revenue is much slower this year. You'll see a growth of about 1.1%. Last year, that was 14%. As a matter of fact, the past couple of years have been 14% in terms of growth. This presents an interesting challenge, which in fact has prompted the approach that we've taken this year in terms of balancing the budget, and will ultimately see us look at some balancing in terms of fund balance as well. Next slide, please. Diving into the general fund, because that is a good portion of what makes up your budget. I believe you'll see that spending in terms of service mirrors your prioritization quite well. At the same time, I think it's important to note that in the general fund, the lion's share of your cost is personnel and M&O as well. Next slide, please. In terms of taxes, you can see why I'm focusing on sales tax and property tax, because that is the lion's share of what you depend on in terms of revenues. And again, while it may be positive, certain things have been slower this year, like sales tax. ABC revenue is a little bit less this year. As a result, I will ask for a modest increase in usage of fund balance at 2%. Next slide, please. So, where do we go from here? We get to work on Thursday. You, me, the team, will roll up our sleeves and start talking about the details. Beyond that, we have several meetings coming up in which we will have an opportunity to collaborate on what is now your budget. On June 4th, we'll have a public hearing. I should remind you that we've also asked the public to provide us input through town halls, surveys. I believe the budget simulator will be open tomorrow, and we will continue to seek that input all the way through the public hearing. Next slide, please. I want to take time to thank all of our staff, because this year everyone took a very hard look at how we do business with our resident center focus, but created systems that allow us to reap savings and provide effective service. I especially want to thank our budget and evaluation staff, who thought outside the box, thought collaboratively, and created an inclusive process this year for our budget presentation. Mayor and City Council, this is now your budget. I look forward to engaging you in a robust discussion during our work sessions, which start this Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to Thursday.
Manager Wilson, I just heard on National Public Radio where Toyota has offered us 5,000 more jobs.
Well, and if we recall, for every one job Toyota creates, there's another 5 spin-offs. So this is a massive number of jobs that will be coming into our community. I do need a motion to adopt the resolution to file the bill.
So move. So move.
Tony, you're looking at me like I'm
So move.
wrong. Okay, yeah. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem. Second. Seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Council, please vote. And again, we're not voting for the budget. We're just voting to file the budget. So, and that passes unanimously. We now move on to our consent agenda. We have removed item G4. Mrs. Hightower would like us to vote on G6 separately. So I need a motion for the consent minus. Okay. Moved by Mrs. Hoffman, seconded by Dr. Wells. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. Item G6 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of the entire property located at 3527 South Elm Eugene Street from the estate of Cecil Leroy Thomas in the amount of $650,000 for future planning efforts near Brown Community Park. Mrs. Hightower?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for removing the item from the consent. I just briefly want to discuss the item because it's something that the community in the southeast portion of the city has been talking about for quite a while. And so when we talk about improving our facilities, our trails, our greenway, our walking space, our green space, we need to have land in order to do that. And this particular item allows us to acquire 15 acres behind the current Brown Recreation Center on Vandalia Road. And we've been talking a great deal about the greenways, East Greensboro greenways, the greenway connections, the trail connections, and this is a real important topic to those individuals that live in the Randleman Road area, the Elm Eugene, southeast region of the city. And I just want to thank Parks and Rec for doing their due diligence. They have a lot of capital projects they want to get done, but they also recognize the importance that you can expand your facilities if you don't have the assets to do so. And sometimes the assets don't come when we think they ought to come. They come, and so we have to seize the moment to do caveat emptor. And so this particular piece of property has come at this time. Were we planning on it? No. Did we know it was going to come? No, we really didn't. And we've had some discussions around land in the area, but this kind of just fell in our lap. And I think it's prudent that we go ahead tonight and approve this item. And I'm certainly sure that many of our residents, and I've seen 2 emails come from 2 individuals who live out of southeast Greensboro, asking us to approve this item. So I just want to stress how important this is. When people see us buying land, we're not just doing it without a cause and a purpose and an intent. Now, we may not quite do the trail tomorrow, but this will become in the planning, and we'll work with community to provide them what they need in an area that's been underserved for quite a while. So just wanted to express that and have you pull this item tonight just so we can really understand. Sometimes we do a consent agenda and we just push it through. But there are many things in this consent agenda that have a great impact, and this tonight is one of them. So thank you, Parks and Rec, for being creative and doing your due diligence work and getting us this land so we can expand our footprint with our community center. So I'd like to move the item, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Okay, that has been moved by Mrs. Hightower, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Council, please vote.
May I just make a comment about the importance of this? If you remember, I think it was 2012 or 13 when we had the opportunity to purchase the YWCA downtown. It was a similar kind of situation, an important piece of land in the basically cultural district, which is the LeBauer Park today. Had we not done that, we might not have LeBauer Park today. Yeah. So this is the importance when we have these opportunities.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor,
that does pass 9-0.
And if I could say, Sharon and I did attend 1 or 2 of the meetings with those community members, and they were very, very passionate about having the additional resources, and even more so as we look at what's happening with that corridor, the 421 corridor, East Greensboro, Southeast Greensboro. It's going to be really vital that we ensure that we have places for folks to live, work, and play. And this plays right into that. I think it's very, very important, and very happy that we've approved it tonight.
Very good. Spread the word. Now we move on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Item H1 is a public hearing for an ordinance for rezoning for 2123 Bird Street, David Turner for Zoli Investments, LLC. I do not have anybody signed up to speak on this item or any other items this evening. If you intended to, please let the courier know.
Okay.
Mr. Kirkman, if we could have a brief
I will
presentation.
keep it very brief. Thank you very much. The request again is to rezone from R5 residential single family to CD RM12 conditional district residential multifamily. The zoning for all of the surrounding properties here is R5 residential single family. The subject property is currently occupied by a duplex, which is a nonconforming use in the R5 zoning district. There are a combination of single family dwellings and duplexes that surround this property. This property is designated as low residential on the adopted Jonesboro Scott Park Plan, and if council approves the request this evening, that plan will be amended to the moderate density residential classification. It's also designated as urban central on the future built form map of the comprehensive plan. There is one condition that is associated with this request, as you can see on your screen. Staff has determined that this request does support the comprehensive plan's filling in our framework strategy to encourage higher density infill development and ensure mixed-use projects strengthen and add value to the community, and the creating great places strategy to meet housing needs and desires with a sufficient and diverse supply of housing products, prices, and location. The proposed district, as its condition, does allow uses that are compatible with the existing varied residential uses and densities in the surrounding area, and allows this existing non-conforming use to then become conforming for future development, or excuse me, future renovation, I should say. This item was heard at the April 15th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There was one speaker in favor and none in opposition. Again, because this rezoning request triggered an amendment to the adopted Jonesboro Scott Park Plan, the item had to come to City Council for this additional action. I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kirkman?
No, just one, because you answered all my questions earlier.
Sure.
It's just going to stay what it is right now.
Yes, that's the intent of the applicant.
Intent to just stay there and improve it.
Right, they're seeking funding to do renovations and improve
And
the
they need-
property, and they feel like it would be easier if it was a conforming use in terms of going to lenders for that purpose.
Good, yeah, good. That'll help improve the area
I think so, too.
tremendously too.
Yes.
So, great.
Do I have a motion, and it does require a statement of consistency? Moved by Mr. Holston, seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Oh, seconded by Goldie, sorry.
I'm good. Yes. The Greensboro City Council believes that its action to approve the rezoning request for the property at 2123 Bird Street from R5 Residential Single Family 5 to CDRM 12 Conditional District Residential Multifamily 12 to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and the public interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future built form map and future land use map. The proposed CDRM 12 zoning district permits uses that fit the context of surrounding areas and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. And the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. And that passes 9-0. Now we move on to item H2, which is a public hearing for an ordinance to annex territory into the Downtown Business Improvement District. Mr. Matheny?
I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
We don't need to vote on that, right?
Yeah, I think you do.
We do?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mrs. Hightower. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 8-0. Is there a presentation with this? Okay.
Well,
Do
can
we
you
have
give us a little bit of explanation? Okay.
No, so moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Dr. Wells. Mrs. Hightower, did you have a question?
Well, I don't know. I saw Marshall standing down there, so I thought maybe he wanted to share something. But we needed to know.
Share. I have nothing to share.
But, well, I don't know what questions I do have because he hadn't said nothing. You just here?
I'm just here.
Okay, well,
Okay.
okay. Marshall, just here. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Council, please vote. And that passes 8-0. Now is the time for our business agenda. Item I.1 is a resolution approving change order number 2 in the amount of $1 million for contract 2023-001 for the resurfacing streets 2023 project with Blythe Construction Company. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Dr. Wells. If there are no questions, council, please vote. That passes 9-0. We will read I-2 and I-3 together. Item I-2 is a resolution approving contract 2024-0120 in the amount of $589,236 with Brooks Lumber Company for site preparation and improvements for 2 fields at Bryan Park Soccer Complex. And item I.3, a resolution approving contract 2024-012A in the amount of $1,008,684 with APT Acquisition Construction Corp. DBA AstroTurf Corporation for artificial turf installation for 2 fields at Bryan Park Soccer Complex. We will take those separately. I-2 is first. I heard him move. Moved by Mrs. Hoffman.
I have a question.
Seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Mrs. Hightower?
I have a question. And I've been going back and forth with staff all day on this because I'm a little confused on this. But I have an MWB question. You've done some things I've not seen done before, and I guess that's the way the RFP was written, to have alternates, alternate bids in the one bid. But my question really is this. You achieved 65% MBE. Why was your goal 16%? That absolutely is a huge disparity. There is no way in the world that you got 65%, which is great, but you only set a goal of 16%. Where is the missing element there? I'm finding it hard to imagine that somebody didn't review this contract and look at the many opportunities that were here and say, hey, guess what? We have a chance to really achieve some goals here. But the bar is set so low on this. I don't understand it. And unfortunately, you didn't meet the W goal at only 4%. And the goal was set at 11. I'm just baffled by the numbers. I think the project itself is great. I certainly support that, but I don't understand how you arrived at this. And I think somebody needs to take me aside and give me a calculator and show me what happened. Because if there's this much opportunity in a contract, we should not be missing this. And that's a lot of opportunity, 65%, when your goal was 16. Ma'am. No, I mean, I think the project's good to do Bryan Park, but I'm just saying, when there's that much opportunity in a contract and it's totally missed, I mean, somebody, Brooks or somebody they need to be hired.
Understanding, you said the goal was what, 16?
16.
And they achieved what?
65.
So it looks like they were achievers.
They look like, well, I'm glad they're overachievers. We always we want people to exceed and go beyond. But when you see the fact that there is within the body of that opportunity, somebody should have caught this. That much grading and hauling, out there to do, I think
When the lady was here talking to us, I think, was it last week? It's just sometimes there are companies that do it. So I just thought that because of the job that had to be done, there were minorities that did that. And that was why this time it had exceeded the goal.
What I'm saying to you is, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is, when we go through a contract, we look at the job and the scopes and the opportunities. And we say, wow, this one has that much grading. That means you could have had 5 haulers, 5 graders. This was a lot of hauling and grading. To go from 16% to 65% seems a huge gap. Maybe I don't understand it after 10 years. What do I know?
Could it possibly be that? Eric, come on in.
Good evening, Councilman Hightower. When we set goals from the MWB office, those are goals that are set. We don't hold back the contractor to exceed those goals, the prime contractor. So in this case, with one service that the prime contractor utilized MWB, and that's grading. And that was a significant portion of that particular job. And so that was how they achieved that number. So that particular prime contractor could have just used them as for a certain number, but they exceeded that goal, as Councilwoman
I
Wells
know
did.
that. I'm looking at the number.
I think they should be commended for really stretching and getting that number.
What that tells me is there's a whole lot of chances, times out there, people can go beyond what a goal is. This is a huge leap, though. And so I absolutely think it's great that they did it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But to have a low bar here and then achieve this much says there's something missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we hope that the culture is changing and the culture of thinking is changing.
What it may also signify is that there are vendors out there, subs out there who are not already identified as a part of our resource pool who are being brought into the resource pool. So it could be expanding the pie here.
Well, actually, this is a vendor that's been used over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So he's one that everybody goes to whenever they have some help.
We do have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. Now on I3, Sharon won't be quite as happy. I3. Yes. Okay, very good. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mr. Matheny. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. And does this mean we can get to work on this right away? Tomorrow? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we need to move on that as quickly as possible. Item I.4 is a resolution authorizing execution of a contract in the amount of $1,719,000 with J&J Underground Utilities, LLC for underground utility location services.
Move the item. Second.
Moved by Dr. Wells, seconded by Mrs. Abuzawader. Council, please vote. That passes 9-0. Item I-5 is a resolution approving a contract in the amount of $1,860,000 with HDR Engineering, Inc. of the Carolinas for SCADA support services for the Townsend Water Treatment Plant Major Electrical Upgrade Phase 2. Moved by Mrs. Abuzawader, seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. Item I.6 is a resolution approving a professional services contract in the amount of $1,830,400 with Hazen and Sawyer PC for the Sewer Master Plan 2024 project.
Move it. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mrs. Hightower. Council, please vote.
Councilmember Matheny?
Zach, did you say? Okay. That passes 9-0. Item I.7 is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement with the town of Pleasant Garden for the provision of water and sewer service.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Wells, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. I do want to thank staff for going back to the drawing board with this. I think it's a good interlocal governmental agreement that will serve as a template for other communities as we go along. So thank you for doing that.
And let's not forget Sedalia, because they've been asking us for 92,000 years.
Yeah, they next.
And that passes 9-0. We're going to take the next few combined, I-8 through I-12. I-8 is an ordinance in the amount of $175 million.
Oh, okay.
$866,465, amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 Water Resources Enterprise Fund for refinancing of 2022 revenue bond anticipation notes. And item I-9, an order authorizing the issuance by the City of Greensboro, North Carolina, of not to exceed $275 million combined enterprise system revenue bonds and other actions in connection therewith. And item I.10, a resolution providing for the sale and issuance of a not to exceed $20 million taxable combined enterprise system revenue bond anticipation note series 2024A. And item I-11, a resolution providing for the sale and issuance of a not to exceed $255 million combined enterprise system revenue bond anticipation note series 2024B. And item I-12, an order authorizing the sale and issuance by the City of Greensboro, North Carolina, of not to exceed $27,500,000 taxable combined enterprise system revenue bonds, Series 2024A, not to exceed $147,500,000 combined enterprise system revenue bonds, Series 2024B, and authorizing the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection therewith. So if we start with I-8.
Move the item.
Moved by Dr. Wells, seconded by Mrs. Hightower. Council, please vote. That passes 9-0. I-9?
You skip I-8. Oh, no, you started with I-8. Okay.
Moved by Mrs. Thurm,
just trying to
seconded
keep
by,
up. Second, I'll second.
by Mrs. Hightower. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. Item I-10.
Move the item.
Moved by Mrs. Hightower, seconded by Dr. Wells. Council, please vote.
They voting too?
That passes 9-0. I-11. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mrs. Abuzawader. Council, please vote. That passes 9-0. And lastly, item I-12.
Move the item.
Moved by Mrs. Hightower, seconded by Mrs. Abuzawader. Council, please vote.
I have a question for the manager of the water and sewer.
Mike?
Mike, I have a question. I was reading where a lot of cities have this. I don't know if it's a chemical. It's called Forever. Is it a chemical? We
There
have
is.
that in our water.
Correct, yes.
Oh, Lord. I'm sorry. I'd like to have the pros and cons on that, if you will.
Oh, certainly. Well, we do have a forever chemical in our water supply watershed. You've probably heard it called PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So we have been, it goes all the way back to 2015 when we did it's called the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule, but we monitored for it, found it, and this council has been very proactive in responding to it with staff. Matter of fact, in 2018, this council adopted a resolution to allow us to do a watershed investigation. Predominantly, it's in I'll call it the airport industrial complex, coming mainly from firefighting foam that we've used the nationwide over decades. You know, these were manufactured chemicals in the 40s, went into commerce in the 50s, and so what we're doing now is of course, the EPA recently issued a primary drinking water, national primary drinking water standard for 6 compounds. 2 of them directly impact us. It's PFOS and PFOA, and we are well underway with our plans to do expansions at Mitchell Water Plant. Matter of fact, you approved a purchase of the last property to allow us tonight to go ahead and do an expansion to address and remove these chemicals. So they are forever, but there is technology out there to remove it, and I give this council and certainly our community assurance that we will do so and make sure that our water is safe.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So that is the end of our printed agenda. We have some boards and commissions next. I would like to appoint Jackie Lucas to the Greensboro Housing Authority to replace Josie Williams.
Second.
Sharon, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes 9-0. That's all I have. Boards and commissions, Mrs. Hoffman? Mrs. Thurm?
I have none, but I wanted to make sure the public knew that there are openings on the War Memorial Commission, and we are holding off on filling those until we determine what's what with the new management. So for folks that have reached out and asked about serving on that commission, please know that we're being intentional of waiting to fill those seats until we determine the role of that commission going forward.
Thank you. Dr. Wells?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem? Mrs. Abuzawader?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few. I would like to appoint Crystal Black to replace Gerald Lemonstall, who had to leave for health issues, on the Community Sustainability Council.
Second.
So that moved by Mary Kay, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
And I would also like to appoint Will Yearns to replace Dr. Marcia Hale
On the same committee?
on the Community Sustainability Council. Yes.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the last one, and these are all at-large appointments, and the last one is Leonard Williams to replace Vicki Faust on the Community Sustainability Council. Dr. Vicki Faust.
Second. That's okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And that
Thank you.
passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Zach? Hugh? Sharon, any boards and commissions?
No, not tonight.
Okay. Council comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, several of us attended the gala for the retirement of Dr. Harold Martin this past weekend. I think it was Hugh, Mary Kay, Madam Mayor, and me, right? And of course, our manager was there, and some staff was there. It was a very nice service. Too long, but nice. I hope you don't hear that. And the celebration at Bennett College this weekend went extremely well. It was a great time to be there. Good graduation and great camaraderie with our graduates. So I had a great weekend. Greensboro had a great weekend.
Yeah, we did. Mary Kay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we all know, a lot of things have been going on in the city. Of course, many of us today attended the Law Enforcement Memorial, and as we all know, this is we saw today, the Franks family was there with the loss of their son several years ago, Jared, and also the Nix family was there with the loss of Sergeant Dale Nix on December 30th last year. Many of the officers, as we know, lost their lives in the line of duty. And it was a very nice memorial, and it had to be changed. It was on the Washington Street steps, but I think most everyone was there today, so thank you all very much. Beyond that, I've been in the transportation conference summit at Curry Convention Center. It is usually held in Raleigh, but this year it was held in Greensboro, and from what I heard from the participants, they're really pleased to be here and they're enjoying everything. So I go back all day tomorrow, and I hope to bring back some good thoughts and ideas for transportation. We had a lot of good programs today, and I look forward to more tomorrow, and I'll update council on that after we finish. Thank you. Hugh?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to duplicate all the ones that have been shared already that the council members attended on the benefit and behalf of our residents. I will say that on May 12th, I had the opportunity to join the Bimbo Park community with the group Truly Making a Difference. It was on a Sunday, and they had families, they had a food giveaway. It was really beneficial for the community, and I have to say this, that if you ever hear the phrase, go fly kite Hugh, it's because I was flying a kite at that event. I've been promised that I would hear that again, so I thought I'd go ahead and just lean into it. Hugh can fly a kite. But it was a great event by the community and truly making a difference. Just yesterday, I believe it was, Mary Kay and I had the opportunity to go to the I-685 launch, so to speak, which is going to be a tremendous asset to Greensboro, Guilford County, the 421 corridor, Carolina Core, and also obviously Toyota, because it will be able to drop off and pick up folks right there. It's just another classic example of the economic development that is driving our community and will be driving us for quite some time. I think I heard earlier tonight that there's some things that are going on. I think the city manager said that, we're seeing bits and pieces of it right now, and this 685 is going to be the very same thing. Greensboro's on the move, and it's a great day in Greensboro. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Sharon?
So, haven't been too many places lately. I've been too busy babysitting, which is a great community and family event. I do want to remind, I want to ask staff too, how far are we along at looking at the transportation of speed humps? I continue to get, concerns and calls about traffic obviously speeding through neighborhoods at a high rate of speed, and so love to kind of get a update on that, as well as our red light cameras, because I am tired of them running red lights and I'm sitting at the light. So I almost got
get you an update on
recently.
both. We're working through the vendors who would provide red light cameras. We'd given you an update, I think, not too long ago, but we're sort of updating that cost and seeing what's provided now versus when we did this, 15 years ago. And with regard to the neighborhood traffic program, I think we can provide you a good update around that. As a matter of fact, that was part of what we'll accelerate
part of our budget.
in the budget. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. And just to remind everyone that District 1 will have a town hall meeting on Thursday at 6:30 over at the Willow Oaks Community Center on Everett Street. And it basically is something good, the highlight of some of the good things that have happened in District 1 that sometimes I don't think people know about. And so this is an opportunity to share those things with the community, to see the progress that we have been making in District 1 with various things, from our Crossmax, which is really highly successful, Crossmax Purple, which is the bus that's going from east to west every 15 minutes, as well as now we're looking at going north to the south, Crossmax Orange. And so we're actually really moving people. And so Thursday night will be an opportunity to share all of those good things, and so something good. So hopefully you all will be able to make Thursday night, 6:30. So thank you.
But last week, I attended at the History Museum, and I think some of the others, I know we were there together, and I think you all came in the afternoon. It was Reserving African American History, and it was quite interesting. We were host for members of the League of Municipalities, so there were people here from all over the state. And we're excited about Benbow Park being, they've made application to become, to be placed on the National Register of Historic Places. And that would be the first African American community or neighborhood in Greensboro to achieve that status. So we're hoping that that is successful. And I'd also like to invite all of you who live in the area near the White Street landfill, which is in District 2. I think about 2,000 postcards like this were mailed to the citizens that live in that area. There's been a lot of discussion about the Bingham Park and White Street landfill, and I want all of you to come so you can hear. We're just presenting facts. And I know it's difficult. People have made up their minds on certain things, but I'm committed to presenting facts. So there will be discussion and presentations from Parks and Rec and experts on the situation. So come and hear for yourself so you can make up your mind for yourself about what we are discussing about the area. So I look for you tomorrow night at 6:30 at Peeler on 1300 Sykes Avenue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Everybody up here does so much, so I won't want to repeat everything, but I was in a golf tournament last weekend, and I'd just like to take this moment to apologize to my partner because I was really bad. And so you'll see me at the Gillespie Golf Course at the first tee. So I apologize, Babu, for ruining the weekend. The second thing, on a more serious note, I'd like to make a formal announcement. My kids are watching. I just want to have my kids that, by the grace of everybody here at this dais, I'll see you by 7:15. The third thing is serious, and you know, it was an emotional day when you see the women and men, whether it's police, fire, EMS, our public safety employees, that every day, and the department heads that said, we don't know some days if we're going to come home. And I don't have that danger of working downtown and what those women and men do. And so I just want them to know, if anybody's listening, that I feel safe when I lay my head down at night, when my kids lay their heads down at night. And we love you and thank you for everything you do to serve and protect the citizens of Greensboro. Thank you very much.
Yes, actually, Mrs. Hightower and her remarks made me think of it. The police department now has a line dedicated to traffic issues, speeding, anything that's related to traffic. Of course, you know, we have the civilian traffic investigators, but also any speeding, anything like that for the time being anyway. It's 336-373-SLOW. So that's 336-373-7569, or you can email to trafficcomplaints@greensboro-nc.gov. So I know they're going to be overwhelmed. They are being overwhelmed with comments, but, you know, they really need to know because, as Chief has said, and it's been in everything, their number one complaint right now is traffic, speeding, people passing, people running red lights, all of those things. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mrs. Hoffman?
Just a couple of things. Some of you celebrated the 50th anniversary of Green Hill week before last on Thursday. It was a very successful event. It was just really well attended, well planned and executed, and the weather. We were blessed with good weather, which had been problematic earlier in the week. And, you know, 50 years is a very long time, but we will also, in 3 years, in 2027, will be the 100th anniversary of the Carolina Theater, which will really be another wonderful cultural and arts milestone in downtown Greensboro. So thanks very much. Thanks for all of you.
And congratulations to you. You were honored at that for all of the work that you have done.
You know, it was very successful financially. I think at this point, we've raised in excess of $400,000 for Green Hill, so that was a very successful event. I hope we'll be able to do as well for the Carolina Theater in a few years.
Mrs. Thurm?
I think everybody has mentioned the items and the events that I attended this past week, and so thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
It's all yours, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm gonna brag on my girl. She is now an alumni of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Tar.
Very, very proud of her. And I'm really proud that she is coming back to Greensboro, and she's going to go to Elon Law right in downtown Greensboro. And she's an up-and-comer. I'm very proud of her, and I'm really, really pleased that she came back home.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see more of our young people coming back home because of the great things that we have to offer. Mr. City Manager? Oh, Tammy, did you want to add something?
Talk about the Triad Business News.
Oh, the number 20.
Yeah, we're in the top 25.
Yeah.
We're in the top 25 now.
Of cities for quality of life.
Yes, for quality of life.
So it was the U.S. News and World Report did a ranking, and the City of Greensboro's number 25. We came up 49 spots from last year. And one of the reasons why we went up so high was that U.S. News and World Report decoupled Greensboro and High Point. And so
We got a divorce.
well,
let's just say we stood on our own.
they were looking.
My pager just went off. I need to go.
It was a larger metropolitan area, I think.
I'm going to say that High Point is a finalist for an All-America City Award this year. So we both
And they have great leadership, too.
We both have great things going on, but it was a really nice announcement today. Mr. City Manager?
Well, in addition to that, I don't know that we've mentioned the Science Center unveiled their expansion. I think it was this past week that we went, which will be called the Rainforest Expedition. The mayor and I were in attendance along with Councilman Matheny. We got to meet a two-toed sloth named Indy, who will live in the facility once it's built, but they unveiled the plans and will go to construction next year. I did not mention that in my presentation, but that's another exciting attraction for the city of Greensboro. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney?
No comment.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Matheny, seconded by Dr. Wells. All in favor say yes. Yes. All right, we are. So the